This is Bass Fishing 101. You guys will have the ability to understand the basics of bass fishing, which include types of rods and reels, types of bait used, where to look for fish, and how to properly handle the fish. So first we're going to start with rods and reels. So it's important to know which rod you're using and which reel you're using because that's going to affect your fishing. So the important thing to look at is your rod action. This is going to be how much the rod bends when pressure is on the tip of the rod. The other thing that you want to look at is rod power. This describes the rod's stiffness of resistance to bending under weight. So all of these things that you can look for, I'm going to show you an example. They're right here. So every single rod has that. Can you see that? So this one, in my room. So the action of the rod action is medium, and the size of the rod is 6 feet. You also want to look at that. That's going to determine what kind of fish. You don't want like a 14-foot rod. That's going to be crazy. So 6 to about 7 feet is good. Your line, so that's going to be the weight of the line. How much can the line hold? This one is a 6-pound to 15-pound test line. So it's going to hold about 15 pounds on this line. And the other thing is the type of reel. So you have your basic push button reels, and then you have your spinning reels, and then you have a bait caster, which those are pretty advanced. So I would just stick to a spinning reel, or even you could do a push button if you feel more comfortable for that. You can basically get any of your rods and reels pretty cheap. You can go to Walmart. Cabela's has some cheap ones. This is an ugly stick. These are like probably $35, so super cheap to go fishing. So for the beginners, I'd probably recommend a moderate fast action rod, medium to heavy power, and a 6 to 12 pound test line. So basically what that ugly stick is. The baits that you want to use for bass fishing are pretty straightforward. They're super simple, which is awesome, and it's a good thing to get into bass fishing because it's probably the easiest to set up. You have things like your crankbaits, which have a lip on it. So these are you see they have the 3, so it's pretty much 6 hooks. These ones dive deep down into the water, so you can get fish on the bottom. Then you have your lipless crankbaits. These ones rattle, so they make a noise. They attract the fish with the noise. You also have frogs. So frogs are cool. These are on top of the water, which is fun because you get to see the fish jump out of the water. When the fish jumps up, it'll bite down, and then you can see the 2 hooks on there. You also have your jerk baits. These are cool. These also make noise, and you kind of just jerk it across the water like that, and it'll attract the fish. You also can use things like crawdads. So these are like little worms like this. Kind of look like a crawdad, and they bounce around. You can stick a hook, and these ones are a little bit more complicated to set up. You kind of have to look up what kind of hooks that you can use. Or you can use a basic worm. Well, not a basic worm, but a worm. These ones are super cool. These ones, there's also many different ways you can set them up, but the easiest for me, especially if you're a beginner, is just to take the tip of it, put it face down on the hook, and then you want to do maybe like 1/4 of an inch in, stick it through the side, and then you have it like that. And this is going to flow through the water and attract the fish, and it's going to swim like that when you pull it. So super cool. And these ones are pretty straightforward. That's why I think these are the easiest to use, because all you have to do really is like tie a basic knot up here. Most of the time it'll hold on. There are more complicated knots, but if you're just starting, a basic knot will do. You don't have to worry about putting weights or anything like that. All of these will catch you some pretty good bass. Also, if you want to get more into it, you can look at the colors. So there's different colors for the lighting of the day. If it's cloudy, if it's sunny, if the water is murky or not murky, you want to look at the different colors that can be used for that. But there's a lot of information online if you want. But these are just the basic things to help you start to fish. So another thing that you want to pay attention to is the bass fishing season. There's 6 seasons to bass fishing, so basically all year round that you can go bass fishing. The winter and pre-spawning seasons, those are probably, and fall, are probably the most complicated to catch a fish. They're not as active, they're kind of hiding out, not as hungry, kind of relaxing. So it is more difficult, but it is more fun once you get the fish. Spawning time and post-spawn and summer are the most active. So spawning means that they are laying their eggs in their beds. So they make these beds, and the mom fish lays all her eggs, and the dad fish, the male fish, guards them. So when you do throw your line in, they're not getting after it because they're hungry. They're doing it because they're trying to protect their bed. So they'll go and attack the bait, and that's when you can catch the most fish, because they're all very defensive and they're going to go after anything that they see because they're protecting their fish. So right now technically is a really good time, March through April, and then the summer is really good time to go fishing. So where to look for fish? You want to look for in the weed beds. Those is where all the weeds are in one section. Most of those things you want to use top water so it doesn't get stuck in the weeds. So things like your frogs are really good. Then you want to look by the docks and bridges. That's where they're also going to be hiding out for coverage, shade, any entrances to shallow coves. That's where the shade is, so they're going to stay in there because it's nice and cool. Hanging trees, logs, rocks, they're going to be in there. That's where a lot of their beds are going to be made because it's protected. So if you do it right there, they're most likely going to bite. And then in the summertime, quick drop-offs are really good to put your lures in. So something like this, which a crankbait, that's going to dive deep into the water and get all the way down into the drop-offs. They're hiding under there for like the coolness and stuff like that. So to properly handle a fish, when you do hook a fish, you want to grab it by the mouth. A bass fish, not all fish. There's other fish that you have to hold under their belly, but for bass fishing, you can grab them by the mouth. Their jaw is strong enough to support them if you handle them properly. So you want to grab it by the mouth with your thumb and like your index finger, and you're going to grab it like that, and you want to hold it straight up and down. So the head is up here and the body is straight down. Do not tilt the jaw, because this is going to add a lot of pressure to the jaw, or to the whole body basically, because the jaw is trying to support the body of the fish. So you want to make sure you're holding it straight up and down. Also, if you want, you can grab the belly of the fish and bring it this way, and then your fish will be vertical, but make sure you're supporting the belly. Don't let it drop, because once you do that, then your jaw is going like this. So make sure everything's a straight line, and then you can release it. Also, when you hold the jaw, it's easier to take the hook out or anything like that. That way they're not flopping around. It kind of almost like paralyzes them for a second. Not in a bad way, but it just keeps them still, and then you're able to get the hook out. So with this being said, after this, now you should know what kind of rod and reel to get to start fishing, the types of baits that you will need, where to look for your fish, and how to properly handle your fish. I hope this helps.